no, these topics: AWS Snowball Service, AWS Storage Gateway, some questions we discussed, and then we discussed about some features of EC2, right? And about the AWS storage, some various types of AWS storage. And then we had some hands-on related to S3, right? So we discussed about Snowball service, right, for transferring huge data to and from the S3 bucket to on-site. We discussed about some types of storage gateways, file gateway, volume gateway, and tape gateway, how it helps in hybrid cloud storage. Then we discussed some questions, right? And then we did some hands-on related to static website hosting, replicating data across region, right, CRR. And then we discussed some S3 transfer acceleration, how to transfer the data fastly using the transfer acceleration. In the backend, we'll have CloudFront. And then we explored certain lifecycle policies for transitioning data from one storage class to another storage class, right? Then we began with EC2 introduction, right? We discussed some features. What is instance? What is AMI? What is instance type, right? What do you understand by key pair, right? What is instance store volume? What is EBS volume? So some basics we discussed. Then we have regions and availability zone, like multiple physical locations for resources. Then you have security group. So we'll be discussing this in detail today, right? And then you have elastic network interface. So just like a network interface, which is virtual, right? So virtual network card. So it's just a virtual network card which will hold the IP addresses, right? And then you have tags. So we have been creating some metadata, some tags, right? Just to identify our instance or any other EC2 resources. Then we discussed about this storage services, S3, Elastic File System, EFS, Instance Store, and EBS. So these are various storage services provided by AWS, right? So today's session objectives are understanding security group, IP addresses, what is public IP address, what is private IP address, what is static address, elastic IP, right? And then you have EBS snapshot, right? So how to take a backup using snapshot, right? And then you have AMI, Amazon Machine Image, right? And then again we will be doing hands-on related to EC2 and storage, right? And then finally we'll discuss about the EC2 cost optimization, right? So, and hands-on, we'll be having some hands-on. So I'll just show you what all things. So we have a number of things for hands-on as well, right? So see, these are the things for hands-on today, right? So many things for hands-on today. 10 topics I have selected, right? So we'll create security group, we'll create EFS file system, right? We'll launch EC2 Red Hat Enterprise Linux instance, and we'll connect to enterprise Linux instance using PuTTY. We'll host our own website in EC2 instance. Earlier we hosted in S3 bucket, right? Then we'll create a snapshot, we'll create AMI, right? And we'll attach EBS volume externally, apart from what we will choose within the instance, right? While creating the instance, we'll attach one from outside as well, right? And then we'll try to unmount and mount the EFS file systems from the operating system command line, right? And then we'll create and test the elastic IP address, right? So So today we'll begin with the security group. So let's see if we got Subir. Subir, I think he's trying to join. Right? So I think Subir has joined. Good morning, Subir.
Good morning, Harish. Hello, everyone. My apologies for the delay.
Okay.
Actually, some system updates were getting installed, because of which my system took like 10-15 minutes to boot.
Okay, it happens sometimes. It's not an issue. So that's fine. So our my screen is visible to you?
Yes, Harish.
Okay, perfect. So we have been discussing just about the session objective. So what we discussed yesterday and what we are going to discuss today, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So you are good. You join at the right time, right? So the session objectives are like something which will give us some idea, right? What we have discussed yesterday, right? So Sridhar, you can go ahead and later, because those things are not much related, right? Anyways, I'll be explaining things today wherever you feel like you are finding it difficult. So you can ask me, I can keep on explaining. Fine? Yeah. So let's begin with security group, right? So security group acts as a virtual firewall, right? Acts as a virtual firewall, controls incoming and outgoing traffic to the EC2 instance, right? Inbound rules you can create for controlling the incoming traffic, right, to your instance. So like you have your instance and what traffic can enter your VPC, your instance. So that rule you can put in inbound. Inbound means incoming, right? Outbound rules control the outgoing traffic. So from your EC2 instance, right, how you are going outside the network, what kind of services you are going to access, right? Even that can be controlled. But for that you have to write outbound rules, right? So usually by default you'll see all incoming traffic will be stopped and all outgoing traffic will be allowed, right? So inbound is something where you have to focus a lot, because outbound is anyways you are going out, correct? So if it is unrestricted, it's not making a big security issue, right? But if all inbound traffic are allowed, it's risky, right? So you have two different types of rules there, right? So what you understand, this is a virtual firewall. So we'll be trying to create security groups in our hands-on today, right? So you create some security group and then you assign this security group to any of the EC2 instance. So you can have separate security groups for different instances, right? Because say like one instance you want to allow something, another instance you may allow something else, right? So you can have separate security groups for different instances. However, if you have similar rules, right? So say like you are creating two EC2 instances where you want to allow SSH access on port number 22, right? So what you will do? You will create one security group. Same you can assign to multiple EC2 instances as well. So there is no restriction. So you can even attach the same security group to different instances. Fine. Then you have IP addresses. So what do you understand by IP address? Private IP address? IP address? Who wants to speak? So IP address is for identifying your machine on the network, right? There will be some address, right? For everything, for all the devices on a network, you need an IP address through which, right, any other device can reach to your device, right? So IP address is used for uniquely identifying a machine on a network. Now comes private IP address. So this one private IP address will be for your local network, right? So that will be local IP address that will be accessible from within the network, right? From outside, nobody can access your private IP directly, right? Then comes the public IP. So public IP is accessed over the internet, right? So public IP, private IP, you understand. Elastic IP may be new to you. Right? Anyone aware what is elastic IP?
No, Harish.
Okay. So this is given by Amazon, right? So elastic IP address, or they call it EIP, right? It is static IPv4 address, static address, right? So even for your account, right? Even for free tier or any type of accounts, all accounts are actually same. Just with respect to billing, it will be called free tier account. So for our account as well, right? We will have one static IP address which can be allocated for free, right? So you can allocate for your account, right? And then first you allocate, and then you can attach to any of the instance that you are having. If you wish, you can detach it from the instance and you can attach to some other instance, right? That means it is reusable, right? So elastic IP address is reusable, right? And if you are not using, say like you have allocated it, right? And you are not associating with a running instance. If you have allocated for your account, and then you have associated with your instance, and then you have brought the instance down, right? Then you will be charged, right? So if elastic IP is not associated with a running instance, that means if you are not using it, right, you will be charged, right? If it is associated with stopped instance, you will be charged. If it is associated with some network interface which is not connected to any instance, which is unattached, right, still you will be charged, right? Only one condition for you to use elastic IP where you will not be charged is it must be associated with a running instance, right? And for only one instance, for only one IP address. So if you take additional IP addresses, this elastic IP, you will be charged. So can anyone tell why they are charging when it is not in use and why they are not charging when it is in use? You can figure out? Try to guess. Any guess?
No, Harish.
Okay. So they want to ensure, right, efficient use of the IP. Say like you just take one IP, static IP, right? That is publicly accessible, right? And that is limited, that is IPv4, right? So if you just take one IP and simply keep your instance down, right? I take one IP, I also keep my instance down, or simply I allocate to myself, and then simply I don't use it, right? What will happen? Those many static IPs will be wasted, right? Simply it will be blocked, but will not be used, right? So just to ensure the efficient use of IP address, right, they are charging if you are not using. If you are using, they are giving it to you. They are not charging. So what will happen when you are using it? That means your instance is running. So anyways, they are getting money because your instance is running, right? So they are charging there. So they just want you to use it efficiently. So fine on this page. Shall we move?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So next thing is EBS volume snapshot, right? So what is this snapshot? Snapshot is used for incremental backup of EBS volume. So we saw that EBS volumes are the block devices used as a primary storage. Say like you want to install some operating system, you are using some root volume, or you are using some another EBS volume for some purpose. We discussed about the different types of EBS volumes, right? SSD based, SDD based and all, right? So this is for taking the snapshot backup. So what is snapshot backup? Incremental backup of the data, right? Point in time backup of the data, right? So we can take EBS snapshot for incremental backup of data. So by incremental, I mean there won't be any duplicate data, right? So for the first time when you take a backup, exactly all the data will be copied, right? Then onwards, right, what will happen? Whenever snapshot is taken, only the delta will be copied. Only the differences will be copied. So you are not wasting any space, right? So it is cost effective as well, right? So, and you know about EBS volume. EBS volumes will be in how many availability zones? EBS volumes. S3 standard, if you are putting object, how many availability zones by default? Can anybody answer? Any idea? Sridhar, we are there?
Yeah, so that is for S3 standard, it is within the region, multiple available
Correct.
zone within the region.
Correct, correct. So for S3, right, standard class or glacier, right, except that one zone concept, right, you have no objects or files copied in multiple availability zones in that region. But for EBS, right, EBS volume will exist in single availability zone. Okay. EBS volumes will exist in single availability zone. Please remember, right? So if one device fails, wherever your EBS volume is there, so if one device fails, storage will still be available. It's in single availability zone. That doesn't mean that one storage device has failed and your volume is gone. It's not like that. Storage will be available because there will be redundancy within that availability zone as well, right? But the problem will arise when the entire availability zone is down due to any disaster, any natural disaster, any issue happens, right? So entire availability zone may become offline, right? So we have redundancy or failure of the storage device in a particular availability zone. However, what if the entire availability zone is offline, right? To mitigate any such condition, snapshot can be created, right? Because you can restore the volumes, the original volumes, how it was, right? Exactly in the same shape, right? Same state, you will get your volume, all your data back. You can simply create a volume, right? And reattach to the instance, right? So another thing is like if volume is accidentally deleted, right? So in that case also, from the snapshot you can recover. And here again there is a abstraction, right? That it is managed by AWS. So you don't know where it is stored. However, it is stored in S3. So you get benefit of S3 here with snapshot, not with EBS volume. With EBS volume, you don't have no benefit of redundancy. However, in case of you have redundancy, right, within the availability zone for EBS. However, for snapshot, you have what? S3 benefit, because snapshot will be copied to S3. Whenever you are taking a snapshot, it will be stored in S3. That is fully managed by whom?
Amazon.
Yes. So S3, as you know, will be keeping data in multiple availability zones, right? So S3 is durable, right? If any availability zone is lost or any availability zone becomes offline, doesn't matter, because from the snapshot which is stored in another availability zone, right? So you can simply restore the data. So rest assured, your data is safe. Making sense? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So another aspect is you can also copy the snapshot. When you take a snapshot, so that file you can also copy to another region, right? Just a file, right? So you can simply copy it to another region. And if you're copying to another region, you can restore in another region also, right? Or whenever there is, say, like entire region only is down due to whatever, region, so you can get your snapshot back, right? So there is another benefit. So we discussed about we will have our incremental backup. When it is a matter of taking snapshot, it will only take the incremental backup, right? So what if, say, like some older snapshot is deleted? Say like we have been taking snapshot every day and for last 10 days, and if I delete the 8th day snapshot, what will happen? Will have complete data or not?
We won't have, I think.
Will not have.
Yes, yes.
We will have. We'll have complete data only
in
for
other
that
zone we'll have.
only for that particular snapshot. Whatever is unique, whatever data is there related to that particular snapshot will be lost. Is it snapshot concept is clear? Please give me a moment. Let me explain further. Right. See. So you have the, when you are taking the first snapshot, right? Right. Taking the first snapshot. So you have the volume, right? You have some data here, right? So you have some data here. So first time when you are taking a snapshot, so whatever data you are having, all data will be copied. Okay. What happened? First time when you took a snapshot, so all data, whatever data is there, so all data copied. Now, say like after a week or after a day, right? So you have the data here. Now this data is modified. This data is unchanged, right? So some additional data has been added. Okay. So what will happen, right? Now, right? So whatever data is modified, right? You just look at that. This modified data, and you have some more data here, right? And some more data here. So only that much data will be copied. Okay, that's what we discussed, right? So this is for subsequent snapshots. This is the case for subsequent snapshots, right? So this is your this side is your EC2 and here S3. Right. Now you see that all data got copied, right? Initially. Prashant?
Yeah.
So initially all data got copied, and then subsequently whenever snapshots are taken, wherever the changes are there, that data is getting copied, right? Now it may give an impression that when we are deleting the older snapshot, so we have snapshot number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So today we have taken 6th snapshot. So if we delete the 4th one, right? So we may think, right, all other things, whatever data was there, everything will be gone because we have taken the incremental backup only, right? So as you have taken incremental backup, right? So only the data, whatever has been modified is there. The original data where all data was copied is not there. We may think like this, but that's not the case. What is happening here? Say like whenever in your desktop you are creating a file, then you can copy it to another folder, or you can cut it and paste it. Have you noticed that when you cut even huge file, big directory, something, when you cut and paste in the same file system, it will not take even a second. It will happen immediately. Have you noticed? Cut and paste, not copy.
Yeah, noticed.
Right? So when you cut and paste, what happens? Only the reference of that file with the actual data changes. Just to the reference. You are cutting, pasting somewhere, just the reference will be changed. Data will not move. Data will be there only. Exactly like that. What happens? When full data is copied there, so all data will remain there. Now, whatever changes are happening, that will be just a reference. Whatever new snapshots are coming, that will be referencing to the older data plus the new data, all combined together. So at all times, you will never have, right, the size of snapshot more than the actual data. That's the best part about it. You'll have exactly the same size of data, right? Whether you are taking any number of snapshots, right? So whatever changes happen, that will be synchronized. Understand like that. There is rsync command, right? So it will simply sync the source and the destination. In CLI, we were seeing sync. We were trying bucket and our local folder can be synced with sync command. So like that, it will just be in sync, right? Any of the data, if you just delete, you cannot restore back to that particular point. Say like on 4th, something was uninstalled, right? And you just want to go back to 4th, but 4th, the date snapshot point in time backup is not available to you, right? So you cannot go to 4th, either you have to go to 3rd or you have to go to 5th. You can restore to whatever was the system state on 3rd or 5th, but whatever data is there, right, in that snapshot, right, all data, even that you took on 1st, 2nd, all these data, all data will be available to you. So there can be question related to this, right? Understood? Any doubt? Please clarify now itself. This is important. Understood?
Yes.
So
Yes.
to summarize, originally, right, entire data is copied and then only the delta is copied. Only the delta is copied, only new data is copied. Right? So this is saving cost because we don't have multiple copies. We are taking one snapshot and another snapshot. So again, 10 GB snapshot, another 10 GB, another 10 GB, like that, everything will be full only, right? So you have 10 GB volume, you'll have 10 GB snapshot only. Okay, so this is about the snapshot.
And the snapshot happens automatically, right, Harish?
You can automate it or you can take it manually.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So now after this we have concept of AMI, right? So what is AMI? Amazon Machine Image. So it's an image. Image of what? Image of a server, right? Includes, what does it include? This image. It will have operating system. You have seen, right, when we try to install any operating system, I think first step will be this only. First step will be to choose the AMI. So we'll again today we'll be installing some instance, then I'll show you. So the very first option is to choose, you want HVM, Red Hat, or you want Windows 2008 or Windows 2019 or whatever. So you choose an AMI, right, when you try to install an instance. So how do you create an instance, right, in the AWS environment, right? For that you need an AMI. You begin with an AMI that will be the base from where you can begin the installation of your new EC2 instance, right? So from one AMI you can have multiple instances created, right? Lakhs of instances created, right? So actually, right, it will have operating system in a root volume. Right. So we have 30 GB root volume we had seen for our Windows instance, right? So you will have root volume that will be bit by bit copy of the root volume. So from instance you can create AMI, from AMI you can create instance, right? So you can install your own operating system, right? In that operating system, what you can do, you can install some application, right? And you can make one image and then you can give it to somebody else, right? Possible, right? So that will be called as a community AMI, right? So we'll see various options, right? We'll have various choices of the operating system, some kind of Windows operating system, some Linux operating systems, right? And then some AMIs will be provided by Amazon itself, right? Some will be provided by trusted vendors, like the one that we chose was provided by Microsoft, correct? So there will be some AMIs from Amazon, say like Amazon Linux, right? Some AMIs by some trusted publishers, right? And then you will have community AMI. Well, whoever are the users, right, of the AWS. Even they can create, I can create, you can create AMI, right? We'll install some operating system. We can make it a web server, right? And then we'll make some AMI, and then we will give it to somebody who can, who doesn't have to install the web server again, right? So we'll customize it and we'll give it to some people who can directly use it, right? So apart from that, you will have AMIs available in Amazon Marketplace as well, right? So in Marketplace and community, right, there will be some difference because these community ones are not tested by AWS, right? So security can be a risk there in community AMI, but in case of what Marketplace, there will be trusted big vendors, right? And will be checked by AWS as well, right? So community one, you should be careful when you are using community AMI. So I'll be showing you all these options, right, when we try to launch the AWS instance, right? So now comes the hands-on time. Okay, so let's begin with hands-on. Create security groups and then we'll test it. So let's go to the console first, all of you. Please log into AWS Management Console. And then let me know.
Yes, Harish. Yeah.
Okay, so Pradeep is there. Who else?
Yes.
Okay, so Sridevi, you are in AWS Console,
And
right?
also log.
Yes.
Okay, so Prashant, you are there, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. So Subhaya, please let me know once you are there.
Yeah, Harish, I am there.
Okay, perfect. So all of you are here in the console, then please click on EC2. Right, so on EC2 dashboard, this is called EC2 dashboard. So here also you can see, welcome to the new EC2 console. We are redesigning EC2 console to make it easier to use and improve performance. We'll release new screens periodically. We encourage you to try them and let us know where we can make improvements, right? To switch between the old ones, old console and new console, and use the new EC2 experience toggle, right? So it's okay, right? So let it be whatever options we have got. So it's okay for now. There's no problem, right? Here what you do, click on running instances. So do you have some Windows instance there?
Yes.
Okay, so now that we have used this instance and understood the concept of CLI and all those concepts, so we will be terminating this instance, right? Because of only one reason. What is the reason? See, if it is switched off, we are not getting charged for this instance. But if you just go to volume, just see here volumes, EBS, under EBS in the left panel, you see volume option, the first option. You click on that, you will see 30 GB. Do you see?
Yes.
So, and if you can recall, right, for free tier, we have only 30 GB limit. Okay, 30 GB, GP2 volume type, right, is, we are authorized for this 30 GB for free. So as we will be creating new instance today, it will also require certain space, right? Then again we'll be testing with snapshot and AMIs, right? So for that reason, right, we should clear this space, right? So this is the root volume. So you cannot directly delete this. You just go to action, you just try to detach, right? So what does it say? Are you sure you want to detach this volume? You said just detach. It's getting detached. Don't do this. You can simply terminate the instance directly. And while we had installed it, so we had chosen the option of delete on termination. So there is option for delete on termination. So as of now, this volume is, right, the server, our instance is not running. See, this is stopped. For that reason, it has allowed us to detach it. So as soon as we clicked on detach, it says it is available. Now this became available. Now we can attach it to another instance as well, right? We can attach it to another instance as well, right? Here you'll have different options. Create snapshot option, you see, right? So we'll come back to this one. So for now, what you do, you can go to instance, right? You can go to action and you can say instance state and you can choose terminate. Simply you say terminate, right? So it will say on an EBS backed instance, the default action for the root EBS volume to be deleted when the instance is terminated. Storage on any local drives will be lost. So whenever we were installing, that time this was default. By default, this was selected to be terminated when we this EBS volume was selected to be deleted when we terminate the instance. So this is a good practice. When instance is not in use, root volume can go. So we can say yes, terminate. So it's shutting down and then it will terminate the instance.
Should we do this, Harish?
Yeah. Please terminate the instance.
So we are doing this because we have only 30 GB.
That's
so,
right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So for now, we will terminate. If you need any Windows instance later, so you can just terminate other Linux instances later and you can install new Windows instance, right? So it doesn't take much time. So for our practical purposes, we are good. We are no longer needing that one, right? So you can terminate this and then you go to volumes and you see this one. For you, it won't be there, right? Just see. See, this instance is terminated, and for me, this volume is there, right? This is available. I can reuse it, right? Right? But for you, it must have been gone. Just check.
Yeah. Empty.
Empty, right? For everyone?
I can still see it in the volumes.
Yes, Harish, for me it's not there, empty.
Okay. So for it will take some time. Once your instance is terminated, then it will go. Okay, Subhaya, you are doing it?
Yeah, Harish, mine it's empty, as I said.
Oh, yours is empty, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So Prashant, for you also?
I can still see it. The instance I can still see it.
Okay.
Not instance, the volume. The volume I can still see it.
Volume is still there. Instance is terminated. Is it showing as terminated?
Yes, terminated.
Just see here, terminated. It will show like terminated. And
Yeah,
then
it shows.
you go to volume again. What does it show?
I can see available there.
Oh, it is showing available to you. That means you had detached. Like how I detached, you also detached, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it is available for you because you also detached it from the instance. So what does it mean? if you want to save your volume, root volume, you don't want to delete it, right? Even when you had chosen the option of delete on termination, you can detach it, right? Or you can take a snapshot and you can keep it. From there, you can definitely create another volume, or you can attach this volume to another instance. However, we don't need it. So Prashant, please go ahead. This must be selected in the volume. Go to action and choose delete volume and say yes, delete.
Okay.
It will say deleting, and then within some 30 seconds, this will be gone. See, gone for me.
Yeah, it's gone.
You also gone, right? For everyone, there is no volume, right?
Yes.
Gone, right?
Yes.
No EBS volume for everyone. Please confirm, Sridevi.
No, I don't have any.
Volume, right here, no volume, right? Perfect. We are good. Now we'll begin with what? We'll begin with security group creation, right? So as you know, what is security group? It is virtual firewall. So what we will do, in the left panel here, you see network and security, everyone? Please let me know.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So under network and security, you have security group option. Please click on security group option. So you have any security group there?
Yes.
How many?
For me, it's 2.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 as well for me, one default and one Windows 2019 which we created. No?
Okay. So for me, I see many security groups are there, right? So what I can do, I'll just select launch wizard, RD, launch wizard, Windows, right? And then I say action, and I say delete security group. So this one, it says no. This one is delete the network interface or associate with a different security group. So RDSSG1, it is not going to delete, right? So what I will do is I will remove that. I'll just say delete here. Whatever is getting deleted, it's fine. So something which is connected to interface or no. So this is for RDS management console. So fine. So that's okay. This it is not going for default. This is default VPC, default VPC. So I have some multiple VPCs. So this is okay. So I'll not touch this. Let it be. Now what we will do is, just all of you have only default, right? Only one?
Default
Or
and
also?
I have 2.
You have two. So you might be having one Windows. Just see.
Right, right.
Please delete that one. That is of no use. All of you just keep one default, right? Anyways, default you cannot delete. If you try to delete, it will not accept, right? So remaining you delete. All of you deleted?
Yes.
Okay. So let's begin with creating a new security group. Please click on create security group, and then it asks for the security group name, right? So for us today, we'll be experimenting with EFS, we'll be experimenting with Linux machine, right? So let's name it as Linux-SZ. Linux-SZ. Okay. So let's create a security group. Please name it Linux-SZ. So what do you want to allow here? Just think and tell me. So we will be allowing, right, for SSH, right? We have to SSH, right, to that instance, whatever we will be creating, right? So that will be SSH for me, right? So that will be SSH for me, right? Now I'll choose the, I have another non-default VPC. I'll choose default VPC. So you choose, you will have probably only one VPC. Please choose the default one. Chosen?
Yes.
Right, Sridevi?
Yes.
Okay. So Subhaya?
Yes, Suresh.
So far everyone, you have chosen Linux-SZ as the name, SSH for me, whatever description you want, right? You put, just choose the default VPC, and then in the inbound rule, just come here and choose SSH. Just type here SSH, right? You'll get that drop down, that option SSH. Just choose that. What do you see? TCP protocol, port range is 22, right? In the source, you choose my IP, right? So that is your public IP, right? So from this public IP, SSH will be allowed. I cannot SSH to the instance that you are going to create, but you can SSH, right? You will be allowed. So this is my IP. So it is taking my IP by default. Okay. Then I will just give some description. SSH my SSH what rule? No, SSH rule for me, right? Whatever you wish, you can just write there. Okay. So here I will be allowed to do SSH, right, on the port number 22. So do you see this is outbound or inbound? This is for incoming traffic or outgoing traffic?
Inbound.
Inbound means?
Incoming.
Incoming.
Correct. Correct. So inbound means incoming. So from my laptop, right, from my network, which has this IP, right, I will be going to EC2 instance, then it will be incoming from the EC2 instance point of view, right? So their inbound rule is to allow SSH connection on port number 22, right? If SSH is running on another port or something, it will not be allowed. If if you don't give this inbound rule, you cannot SSH to your instance. Okay. So now under outbound, just let it be like that. It says allow all traffic, right, for any destination. So 00000 means any destination. So outbound rule is to allow all traffic. So allow all traffic. If you wish, you can write, otherwise just don't touch it, just let it be like that, right? And then you have some tags. So if you wish, you can just add a new tag, then you can say like name, and then you can say some value, right? So this is for Linux -SZ. So I just mentioned the name of the rule, name of the security group here. All done so far, this page? Please
Yes.
confirm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you click on create security group. So now you can see you are within that Linux -SZ security group. There you can see inbound rule, right? Outbound rule.
Yeah, Harish,
Yeah.
the outbound rules for me, it stays in the destination stays custom, but there is no IP. I mean, you see 00, right? So for me, I don't see that.
So please click on that. Wherever you see that custom, there you click, drop down.
Anywhere. Okay.
Yeah, and choose anywhere. Yeah.
Anywhere. Okay, fine.
Now that 00 will come.
Right, right.
Yeah. You can say save and create. You have option to create.
Yes.
Yeah, please click on create. So if you are, once you just create, you will be landing in some page like this. Please let me know if all are here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So here you see edit inbound rule, that option is there. So at any point of time, right, if you want to edit the inbound rule or you want to edit the outbound rule, you can click on that, right? You can add it. You can just click on edit inbound rule, right? And then you can see the option to change it, and then you can change it and save it, right? So that is possible, right? So click on security group, and then you have this Linux -SZ here. Is it there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now you create one more rule. This rule will be different. Click on create security group. Create another security group. All clicked?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So please choose security group name as EFS-SZ. Okay. So by name EFS, what do you recall? Elastic File System, right? So what is that elastic file system? Sridevi, you are familiar with EFS?
Yes, Elastic File System will be attaching. It's like a file storage.
Yeah.
Instead of the block storage here,
Correct.
it will be in that like in files format, like shared file system. But I think
Perfect. Perfect.
it cannot be shared to the others. That part I'm not clear.
It can be shared to multiple instances.
Yes, it can be shared with multiple instances. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. So this is no, as you said, exactly like that. It is a shared file system which can be shared to multiple instances, right? Using NFS protocol, right? So here EFS-SZ I have named it. So here what do I say? Allow what? Allow whom? Whom we are going to allow? We will be allowing to allow Linux instance. Correct? Because whatever Linux instance that we will create, that needs to access this EFS volume, whatever we are going to create after this. So we will apply this EFS-SZ rule on our EFS volume. We'll create one EFS file system. On that file system, we'll apply this EFS-SZ rule, and we'll create one Linux instance. On that, we will apply Linux SZ rule, correct? So what will happen? That Linux machine will be accessing EFS storage, right? So we will be allowing our Linux instance, right? So for that reason, we need to write one inbound rule here. So I'm choosing again the default VPC, and I'll be adding a rule here. That rule, what should I choose? Who can suggest?
NFS.
Perfect. So we'll be choosing NFS because this works on NFS protocol. You see the port range 2049, right? So on this 2049, NFS will be accessed. So source, what should be the source? Who can tell? Custom, anywhere, or my IP? Do you want to allow everyone? No. Just want to allow the Linux instance, right?
My IP.
My IP, if you say, that means your the system's IP. So from there, you will not access NFS. You will access NFS from EC2 instance, right?
Yeah, okay, different.
This my IP is not going to help. Anywhere will be quite risky. Anywhere means anybody in the world can access your NFS share. So then comes the use of custom. Then comes the use of custom, right? Then in that custom, just once you click, you will see various options, right? 000, this, that, a lot of options, right? CIDR blocks. And then if you see carefully, you'll see two security group options are also there, right? For this particular VPC, whatever security groups are there, that is listed here. Which one do you think is relevant?
Linux SG.
Linux SG.
Yes. So please choose Linux-SZ, that security group. So from that security group, right, that will be the source. From that source, you will have NFS access on port number 2049 to the EFS device in which we will be connecting this EFS security group, right? So this allows Linux SZ to EFS, right? To EFS file system, right? So you can type something, whatever in description, and then you can come down and you can see outbound. So outbound is okay, so doesn't matter here. So we'll just leave outbound, and we'll see that that tag option is there. Here I'll just use the name tag with capital N, and then I'll put some value. So let me keep the same thing like EFS-SZ. Okay. Now I see that option of create security group. So all of you are done. Then please click on create security group. All good?
Yes.
Please click on create security group, right? And then you will be within that security group, and it shows inbound rule as NFS TCP 2049. Source is Linux SZ, right? Allows Linux SZ to EFS file system, right? Outbound rule, all allowed, some tags, whatever, right? Now you click on security groups, and then you see, right, another security group, EFS-SZ, has also come. So we have EFS-SZ, we have Linux SZ, right? So two security groups are there in the place. All good so far?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So now what we will do, just scroll and you see EC2 dashboard. Please click here. Maybe on instances you can click EC2 dashboard. You click on EC2 dashboard. There you will see running instances. See that? So click on that running instances, and you will have one instance that is shown as terminated. Correct?
Yes.
Now, what we are going to do here, right? We will be creating instance in a while, but before that, what we will do, we'll go to console. We'll go to console. Where we can find EFS? Any guesses? EFS is independent of this dashboard. You see, you will not see EFS anywhere. You will see volumes, right? You have volume, snapshot, EBS under that, everything is there. EFS is not there. So EFS is fully managed, right? EFS is fully managed, right, and provided as a service by Amazon. So you just go to the, click on this services and then look for EFS. Just type EFS. You found that? Managed file storage for EC2.
Yes.
Saw that, guys?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Now you can click on EFS on the AWS console. So we went to AWS console. There we searched for EFS and we are in the EFS dashboard, right? So I have one file system already in place, created on 1st of August. So this file system I will delete. This is a destructive action that cannot be undone. So I'm fine with that, right? So what I will do is I will delete this. I don't want this. So it's deleting mount targets for file system. So this file system is getting deleted, right? So you have EFS file system, lifecycle management, you see. For EFS also you have lifecycle management. We had discussed now from the standard we can move to infrequent access category, right? So now if you just click on file system, it will be similar. Mine and your screen will be similar. You see, nothing is there, right? No file system.
No.
Right. So for everyone, there is no file system. All here at any point of time, if I am going faster and if you are on any other screen, so please ask me, I will stop, right? And then we can do it together, because once you are left behind, so you will be out of sync, right? So all on this page?
Yes. Yes, Harish.
Okay. So hands-on is important, right? From many points of view, from learning point of view, from understanding point of view, from examination point of view, right? So you'll have in-depth knowledge. Once you are used to hands-on, if you are doing some hands-on with few things, then you can do with remaining things as well. You'll get used to it, right? So you'll love it. So a lot of options will be there, so you can explore them. So please click on create file system. Here you have name option. Please click on this and say some file system name, like I'm choosing EFS1. So I've deleted, I have no EFS, so I'm saying EFS1. Okay. Now, virtual private cloud. So this VPC, I have the default VPC. I have chosen the same thing, and then I have option to customize. So please do not click on create, we will customize it. Please choose EFS1 and then click on customize. On the customize page, right? Because we are doing it for testing purposes, so we don't want automatic backup, right? But you have option for automatically backing up your file system data with backup using recommended settings. So we will just not choose this option. Life cycle management, let's leave for 30 days since last access or something. So we can before that, right, we will be removing this, we will be clearing this, right? So that will not be charged, right? Now let the performance mode. If you remember, yesterday we discussed about the general purpose and max IO, two different types of performance modes for EFS. You can recall?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what is that? General purpose? That is the default mode. You see, by default it came selected, right? So ideal for latency sensitive use cases like web serving environment and content management system, right? So here you have low latency and good throughput. However, this max IO is scaled to higher levels of aggregate throughput and operations per second. So this is for very high throughput and very high IO, right? So we'll be choosing this. This will be chargeable, right? So throughput mode will choose bursting, right? So here, based on the need, the size will be scaled, right? So that's not an issue. Throughput will be as per the size. So if you remember it well, I was telling, even when the file system grows, latency remains low, right? So here throughput will scale with size. Whatever number of files you put, you keep putting file. You don't have to choose any size here. Keep putting file, it will grow. Keep removing files, it will shrink. Right? Now, so we are not enabling encryption, right? So we are not enabling encryption for data at rest, right? For our testing purpose here, right? So tags, optional it is. However, I'll just give some tag. I'll just say name and we give some tag. So what tag should I give? Any suggestion? I'll just put EFS1 only then in that case.
EFS1, yeah.
We'll give EFS1 and then I'll say next. So all of you, when done with this page, please let me know, then I'll click on next.
Yes, Harish.
So everyone, please confirm.
Yes, Harish.
Kushan,
Yes.
Sridevi, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So please click on next. Then you see network access, right? So network access says virtual private cloud at VPC. By default, it is selected the default one, right? So mount targets. Just look at the mount targets. What is mount target? It is the NFS endpoint. A mount target provides an NFS endpoint at which you can mount an Amazon EFS file system. Where do you want to mount it, right? We recommend creating one mount target per availability zone. Why they are recommending like that? Any idea? Because we have, say like for this particular region, we have 3 availability zones, right? So all the 3 will be in different subnet. Subnet is subnetwork. We will be discussing about what is VPC and what is subnet, and we have no entire chapter for that. So we'll be discussing that. So for now, you please understand that, right? We have availability zones. So each availability zone will be related to a particular subnet. So one subnet, one availability zone, that will be mapping. You see there? So now the IP addresses will be of different range, right? So we need to create different mount targets, one mount target per availability zone, because our EC2 instances can remain in different availability zones within that particular region, right? So you want your EFS file system to be accessed from multiple instances across different availability zones, then you must create different mount targets for different availability zones, and accordingly you have to take care of the security group as well, right? So what you are going to do here for security group, whatever SZ16 something, this default is coming, please click on cross and cross, just remove. Then after keep clicking on cross, you have option to choose. Please click on security group. What do you see? You remember while we were creating the security group, what I had told? What we are creating now? EFS, right?
EFS.
What should be the security group for EFS?
First one.
EFSSG, right? Perfect. Perfect. So please choose EFSSG where we had given rule to allow the Linux instances. Linux SG we had allowed within that EFSSG. So this is EFS that we are creating. So let's choose EFS-SG, right? Don't choose anything else. Click outside, right? See, just click here, choose EFS-SG, and other options are there. Don't do anything. Click outside, right? Then only one will be selected. Now click on the other one. Again, you have EFS-SG for 2B availability zone as well. Click on that. Click outside. Now for the third one, again you have option for EFS-SG, right? Click outside. So now if you see in this security group, you have EFS-SG, EFS-SG, EFS-SG. Same security group has been selected for different availability zones for the different mount points, right? Of the same NFS, right? File system. So once you have done this, you can say next. You can create additional mount targets or something, but we don't need these 3 are enough. We can create our EC2 instance in any of the availability zones, and you will have this EFS available for us, right? So can I click on next if all are fine?
Yes.
Okay, Sridevi?
Yes.
Okay, done so far, everyone? Any doubts?
Yes, Harish. Yeah.
So we need to choose it for all the availability zones, right?
We are choosing for all the 3.
Okay, so if by default mine is having East 1, so it is having 6. So for all the I think 6 we need to choose.
Yeah, choose it just for our demonstration purpose.
Okay.
Because say like when you are creating instance, right? So EFS you will be paying for EFS file system, right? So you will have like you'll be paying for it, right? So why not access from different instances, right? So let it be for all availability zones.
Okay.
And another thing is when you are creating the EC2 instance, you have choice for choosing a particular availability zone, right? However, if you miss to choose a particular availability zone, right, what this AWS will do, it will create your EC2 instance in any of the availability zone based on their choice or based on their availability. Where they have more computing power, they will choose it there, right? For our tier 2 micro or something, there is no issue. But if you are choosing some big server, right, very huge capacity compute server, so what will happen there? It may not be available in a particular availability zone at a particular time, right? So if it is not there, then you have to create your EC2 instance in another availability zone, right? So at that time your EFS mount point should be there, correct? So let's give target to all of these availability zones of ours, right? So this is all for our subnet only, nobody else can access it. So this is for our subnet. Now we say next. See, this policy editor has come back, right? Yesterday we worked on creating certain policy, certain things we wrote, right? Say like if you just click on enforce read-only access by default, you see that JSON policy we were writing yesterday, right? It has come similar to that. You can relate?
Yes.
You saw something similar yesterday, right?
Yes.
So you have version, you have statement, you have effect, you have this action, all those things are there, right? So what you do, you just don't do anything, just unclick, keep it clean, no policy required here. Okay, so No file system policy we are putting here. This is optional. We are not preventing anybody. We are not giving any read-only access, right? So we are not doing any encryption. So now just let it be like that. Just leave it blank. Policy editor. Right?
Two quotes, is it? Two quotes.
Clear that. Please click on clear. All of you, please clear this. And then click on next. Clicked on next.
Yes.
Okay. So once you click on next, you have option for reviewing and creating the file system. Okay. Just see this. Just review once. You have file system, different type of some name, some general purpose, busting, 30 days life cycle, some tags, some mount targets. Right. So Sridevi will be having 6 mount targets because in her region, right, she has 6 availability zones, right?
Yes.
So now you have file system policy, and then you have option to click on create. So I just clicked on create, and if you quickly see, you will see this creating option here, file system state. Now it became available quickly. So you might miss it also. So now it became available quickly. So it took some 5-10 seconds, and then this is created, right? Okay, so we have created
Yes.
the EFS file system.
Yes.
Now it's time to use this, right? So what we have covered so far, see if you look at this hands-on, right? So what do we see? Create security group and then create EFS file system.